And that brings on a good point, especially something for Alzheimer's and the food that we're eating that can cause that. Can you talk a little bit about gut health and how that all connects?
I honestly, I get on a bit of a tangent on these things because I love it so much. And the amount that isn't shared with the wider population, I think, is incredible. So health is really interlinked. So when we talk about food, and I just mentioned like the link between the brain, well, everything you consume has to go through your gut. Your gut is basically from your mouth, your teeth and your tongue and your throat and your stomach and your intestines all the way out to your bum. So the gut, when we talk about gut health, we have to ask ourselves, like, certain foods promote gut health, certain foods destroy our gut, right? But we want a healthy gut because we want to break down the food properly so we can absorb it, number one, but also because within our gut are something called microbes, and microbes are our bacteria, good and bad, right? So the whole, you know, when a spaceship goes to another planet and it's like, oh, we want to see signs of life. Mm-hmm. Well, they're not looking for a lion or an alien. They're looking for microbes. They're looking to see if there's these things that are moving around in a cellular level that have basically created life, if you believe in evolution. Yep. So when we talk about gut health, what is the gut? The gut is like your garden. It has good bacteria, bad bacteria. Good bacteria in a garden are like flowers, and bad bacteria are like weeds. So if you were having a garden and you wanted a good garden, you want loads of nice flowers, diverse, lots of different colors, sizes, shapes, and you want to minimize weeds, and you want really nice soil. So when we talk about gut health, you want loads of good bacteria, the flowers. You want less bad bacteria, not zero. You want less bad bacteria, and we want really good soil or gut lining and a good environment for that to thrive. So what does good gut health mean? It means having a diverse range of good and bad bacteria, about 80-20 good. So you do want some bad bacteria, you don't want zero.
Why would you want bad bacteria? What role does it play?
Oh, so bad bacteria is actually...
I mean, the question meaning, what positive role does bad bacteria play on gut health?
So, yeah, it's a really good question. Bad bacteria is what basically, the way to think about it, without bad bacteria, you won't destroy some of the bad cells. Okay. So the bad bacteria kind of like clears the dead wood. So imagine if you had the forest, a garden. If you didn't have bad bacteria, you didn't have some weeds in there, then you wouldn't be able to get rid of the trash in your gut.
Similar as the mushroom. It's decaying
you want some.
You need to decay to then replenish and make your soil more nutrient rich.
It's like inflammation. Yeah. Inflammation isn't good or bad. Too much inflammation is bad. Too little inflammation is also bad. You want it just right. It's like Goldilocks. Yeah. Because inflammation, for example, if I hit my wrist on something and bash it on the side, it swells up. It's inflamed. Inflammation isn't the problem. It's there to help you. Water is sent to the scene to cool inflammation down, inflame, on fire. So water comes to the wrist, swells up, and it's healing you for a process of like cytokines and things like that and bringing the white blood cells to kind of clear the inflammation. So inflammation isn't necessarily bad, and it's the same in your gut. You shouldn't have zero inflammation in your gut. You should be a little bit inflamed to get rid of the dead stuff and heal you. But it's when we're overly inflamed that it's a problem. And the problem is chronic inflammation. Chronic means that it's not one-off. It's there forever. Not there forever. It's there long-term. Mm-hmm. So it's even in fitness. If you train every day and you are inflamed every day massively, it's like being chronically inflamed. So you need rest.
If someone came to you with chronic inflammation in the gut, what would you recommend to them that they should do first?
Okay, so you, as a coach, you have to look at all the inputs of why they could be inflamed. So things that inflame: diet, as I mentioned, oil, sugar, processed foods and all that. So you might look at that first. Equally, lack of gut diversity. You don't have enough good bacteria and not enough diverse, and you've got too much bad bacteria. So you would look to heal that. The third thing is stress. So why it could be your cortisol levels, your stress hormone is super high, which would lead to inflammation as well. It could be that your hormones, because your hormones are like the staff of your body, they control how your body responds. Correct. So it could be that your hormones aren't working as they should. You might have a thyroid problem. You might have an estrogen or a testosterone problem. So you might go there. Or the fourth thing is, I guess, stress isn't just physical. It could be mental.
What about lack of sleep?
Yeah, absolutely. Sleep, melatonin is your sleep hormone, basically, sleep and recovery hormone. So if you don't sleep enough, melatonin and cortisol is your stress and melatonin is your healing or sleep. So if you're not sleeping enough, your melatonin will be very low. And if your melatonin is very low, probably your cortisol is very high. So lack of sleep is massively inflammatory. And we know that because, if you don't sleep properly, you can't think properly. It's an inflammation problem. If you don't sleep properly, you get massive bags under your eyes. Yep. That puffiness is inflammation. So massive is sleep. So the big pillars: nutrition, gut health, stress, and sleep.
And someone comes to you with that question, you're going to investigate all these aspects before you can kind of give them any recommendations. Do you have any examples, without giving clients names, and maybe not just gut health, chronic gut health inflammation, but any type of inflammation, and assessing a client and what did they come to you with, what happened, and what was the final outcome?
Okay, so before going into a specific, I'll give you a generic answer to that, which everyone listening to, you can identify if you've got an inflammatory problem in terms of like your health by doing some simple tests. And I just want to run through those as an indicator of, do I have a inflammation problem or metabolism problem or metabolic syndrome? These are all inflammation problems. So just to be clear, 1/3 of Americans right now have a major blood sugar problem. Okay. So blood sugar, when blood sugar is overly high, it causes inflammation. It causes your body to basically be on fire. 1/3 of Americans have a massive problem. Okay. That doesn't mean the other 2/3 are good. No. Mm-hmm. That means they're on a spectrum of like acceptable. They're not optimal, right? So it's estimated by the year 2030, this is crazy, half the world's population will have a blood sugar problem classified as diabetes or pre-diabetes. Half the world. For me, this is crazy. Mm-hmm. So how can we test ourselves to see how good our metabolism is controlling our blood sugar? Well, there's 5 tests, and 3 of them you can do at home, and 2 of them you can go to a doctor tomorrow and get them tested. So number 1, have you seen a diabetic person just have a blood sugar prick?
Yeah, with the checking your insulin levels.
Yeah, so they check their blood sugar, and if their blood sugar is overly high, it means that their insulin isn't working effectively. Yep. So the first thing is to test your fasted blood sugar. Number 1, you can buy that pen; it's really cheap. Number 2, you can check your overall weight. If you're over a certain kind of like circumference in your waist, it's an indicator that you're carrying too much weight, which is a metabolic problem. You can check your blood pressure, because your blood pressure, if your blood pressure is high, it means that your body is working really hard to pump blood around. So that's the 3rd. All of those 3 things you can do at home. Mm-hmm. Number 4 is to check your cholesterol, and number 5 is to check your triglycerides. And you do have to go to at least a pharmacy, or you can get a home delivery test to do that. And here's the problem. Of those 5 tests I've just mentioned, in America right now, only 12% of people have no issues with any of them. So everyone, the other 88% have at least one of them having a problem.
Yep.
This is huge. So these are things that you can check at home, but most people will know if they've got a problem because they're feeling bloated, they're carrying excess weight, their energy levels aren't there, their mind can't think properly. I would say the vast majority of people, as I've proved by those statistics, have an inflammation and metabolic problem. And even if you don't have a problem, you can always be better. So we've got to the stage in healthcare where the ranges that your doctor are telling you are acceptable are so big. So, for example, a doctor will tell you if your blood pressure is under 140/90, you don't have a problem. This is crazy. Like 120/80 isn't even optimal. We should be lower than that even. It's acceptable. But to tell someone that their blood pressure is acceptable at 140/90 is crazy. This is bad. And, looking at my brother's lab results, I'm like, your doctor hasn't told you this is a problem? Like, what's going on? Because the doctors don't have time to educate. They just give you some drugs. They'll give you some, whatever.
They're just looking for a quick, get you in, get you out, and here's your answer. Good luck.
Exactly. So the first thing that we need to do is identify the problem, but then also track progress. So the great thing is all those metrics I just told you, these are metrics that 3 of them you can check at home, and 2 of them you can go to a doctor. So those 3, the first 3, blood sugar, blood pressure, and weight, require 3 bits of equipment that you can in total buy for about £50.
And then you can find those acceptable biomarkers online, or where can they find that information?
Well, not to plug myself, but you can contact me and I'll give you them. Okay. Because again, acceptable, if you go to a doctor, he will tell you things are acceptable when they're overly high rather than optimal. Acceptable isn't optimal.
What, do you think that has any relation with doctors connected to the pharmaceutical industry to give their benchmarks of acceptability?
Yes, 100%. Because
that was a rhetoric question.
If you think about it, number one, this is the problem. There's a vested interest in keeping us non-optimal. Healthcare is a massive industry, and even if you speak to a doctor, I think a lot of doctors go into medicine for the right intentions, and nurses. I think they're not there to make loads of money. Like, they can make more money studying other things and going into banking. So they go with the right intentions. But if you ask a doctor how many days they have in training for nutrition or gut health or sleep, it's days. Not weeks, not years, not months, days. So when you go to a doctor and ask for help,
a family doctor, your generalist,
GP, yeah, they're not that educated in nutrition. So, they're very quick to be like, eat less, move more.
Yeah.
Watch your calories. For example, the food pyramid, which says to go low saturated fat, to eat grains, blah, 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 eat your 5 a day, whatever. These have caused problems. So, the fact that my brother said to me, oh yeah, I don't eat butter. I was like, why not? And he's like, because it's bad for you, isn't it? And I was like, why is it bad? And he's like, oh, it's got saturated fats. I'm like, okay, what do you eat instead? He's like, margarine.
For full episodes, visit our YouTube channel, Fruiting Body Podcast.